Welcome to Hockey Wiz Talks podcast. Today I'll be previewing the second round of the 2020 NHL playoffs. Eastern Conference preview. The first matchup in the Eastern Conference is between the Philadelphia Flyers and New York Islanders. Key players in this matchup for the Philadelphia Flyers: Claude Giroux, Jacob Voracek, Sean Couturier, Travis Konecny, Kevin Hayes, Ivan Provorov, Travis Sanheim, Matt Niskanen, and Philippe Myers. For the New York Islanders: Matt Barzal, Brock Nelson, Anders Lee, Jordan Eberle, Josh Bailey, JG Pageau, Anthony Beauvillier, Ryan Pulock, Nick Leddy, Devon Toews, and Adam Pelech. X factors in this series for Philadelphia: Joel Farabee and the Islanders' fourth line. The goalie matchup in this series for Philadelphia: Carter Hart, and for the New York Islanders: Semyon Varlamov. The Philadelphia Flyers and New York Islanders have faced each other twice in the playoffs. Both of these matchups took place when they were both part of the Patrick Division. Each team has won a series, with the Islanders winning in '85 and the Philadelphia Flyers winning in '87. The Philadelphia Flyers didn't play great at all against the Montreal Canadiens. In fact, they actually gave Montreal a decent chance in the series. If the Flyers play sloppy at all in the series against the New York Islanders, they will get dismantled just like the Washington Capitals. The Flyers' best players in the series against Montreal were Carter Hart for the first 4 games, Kevin Hayes, and Jacob Voracek. Claude Giroux, Travis Konecny, and Ivan Provorov were relatively quiet in the series, but they did produce when counted upon. These 3 players will have to be a lot better against the New York Islanders. If they aren't, it will be a short series. Carter Hart is slowly proving himself to be a big-time goalie, but he didn't have a whole lot of traffic in front of him. This isn't going to be the case against the New York Islanders, as their whole game plan is to get pucks to the point and get shots on goal with traffic in front. The New York Islanders, on paper, don't look very scary, but with the Islanders, it's all about the system and how Barry Trotz has his team playing in the playoffs. These New York Islanders remind me of the '95 Devils that played very structured defense and got timely goals from unsung heroes. Anthony Beauvillier has been a big story thus far in the playoffs. The Flyers need to keep him in check. Adam Pelech and Ryan Pulock did a marvelous job on Alex Ovechkin in the last series. They will have to do just as good a job against Claude Giroux and Sean Couturier. Semyon Varlamov held down the fort in goal against the Capitals. He will be relied upon heavily to be great against the Flyers. I see many weaknesses in this Flyers team that the New York Islanders could exploit. For that reason, I think this matchup could be an upset. My prediction is that the New York Islanders win 4-2. The second matchup in the Eastern Conference is between the Tampa Bay Lightning and Boston Bruins. Key players in this matchup for Tampa Bay: Nikita Kucherov, Brayden Point, Andre Palat, Alex Killorn, Tyler Johnson, Anthony Cirelli, Victor Hedman, Mikhail Sergachev, Ryan McDonough, Eric Cernak, and Kevin Shattenkirk. For Boston: Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak, David Krejci, Jake DeBrusk, Charlie Coyle, Andre Kasse, Charlie McAvoy, Zdeno Chara, Torrey Krug, and Brandon Carlo. X factors for Tampa Bay: Yanni Gourde, and Boston's fourth line. The goalie matchup in this series for Tampa Bay: Andrei Vasilevskiy, and for Boston: Yaroslav Halak. The last time the Tampa Bay Lightning and Boston Bruins met in the playoffs was in the 2018 Eastern Conference semifinals, when the Lightning beat the Boston Bruins in 5 games. The Columbus Blue Jackets are structured a lot like the Boston Bruins, but there is one huge difference, and that is the Blue Jackets can't finish their scoring chances like the Bruins can. So the Lightning will have to tighten up defensively, or else the Boston Bruins will have a field day with them. The Boston Bruins obviously have the best first line in the NHL, but playing without David Pastrnak for games 2, 3, and 4 of the Carolina series, David Krejci and Charlie Coyle both stepped up and scored big-time goals. Boston was able to beat Carolina easily after Svechnikov went down, but they won't have it so easily against Tampa Bay, because they are a much deeper team. Yaroslav Halak was shaky at times in the Carolina series. He'll need to be a lot better in this series if Boston wants to win. The Tampa Bay Lightning were able to dispatch the Columbus Blue Jackets despite playing without Steven Stamkos. Brayden Point, Nikita Kucherov, and Victor Hedman led the charge offensively, and key role players such as Yanni Gourde, Blake Coleman, and Barclay Goodrow were their most consistent players all series long. Against Boston, obviously Victor Hedman will have the task of being matched up against Boston's big line, but the second line for Boston is equally as dangerous in the playoffs, so they will need Ryan McDonough and Eric Cernak to be great. Andrei Vasilevskiy is going to have to steal a game or 2 against Boston, and they will need him to be great all series long. I expect this series to be quite interesting, and it very much has the potential to go 7 games. My prediction is that the Tampa Bay Lightning win this series in 7 games. And now a word from our sponsor. Check out my hockey blog at hockeywiztalkshockey.blogspot.com. Also visit my Facebook page, Mr. HockeyWiz777, and my Instagram, Mr. HockeyWiz77. Western Conference Preview. The first matchup in the Western Conference is between the Vancouver Canucks and the Vegas Golden Knights. Key players for Vegas: Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty, Jonathan Marchessault, William Karlsson, Riley Smith, Paul Stastny, Alex Tuch, Shea Theodore, Nate Schmidt, Alec Martinez, and Brady McNabb. For Vancouver, Elias Pettersson, Bo Horvat, Brock Besser, JT Miller, Tanner Pearson, Quinn Hughes, Alex Edler, and Chris Tanev. X factors in this series: Tyler Mott for Vancouver and Vegas' fourth line. The goalie matchup in this series: for Vegas, Robin Lehner, and for Vancouver, Jacob Markstrom. The Vancouver Canucks are coming off a surprising upset over the defending Stanley Cup champions, St. Louis Blues, while the Vegas Golden Knights dismantled the Chicago Blackhawks in 5 games to move on to the next round. If we learned anything from the series against the St. Louis Blues, we learned that the Vancouver Canucks are no joke. And if the Vegas Golden Knights don't take them seriously, they might get sent home. The Vegas Golden Knights might have the best all-around team left in the playoffs. They have depth at every position, and might have the hottest line in the playoffs, which features Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith. Max Pacioretty wasn't much a factor in the series against the Chicago Blackhawks. He will need to be in this series. Robin Lehner will have to be on his A-game against this young but very talented Vancouver team. The top guns for the Vancouver Canucks, Elias Pettersson, Bo Horvat, JT Miller, Brock Besser, and Quinn Hughes, all came to play in the first round against St. Louis. They will need to do more of the same against a high-powered Vegas team that is capable of running up the score. The Vancouver Canucks don't match up well against Vegas at all, because not only does Vegas have the personnel to match up against their top 6, but Vancouver's top 4 isn't good enough to contain Vegas' top 6. Jacob Markstrom was spectacular in this series against St. Louis. He will have to be even better if they want to beat Vegas. The Vegas Golden Knights are just too deep and are a whole different beast than the St. Louis team that the Vancouver Canucks beat in the first round. Even though Vancouver might make it an interesting series, I don't think they will have enough to beat the Vegas Golden Knights. My prediction is that the Vegas Golden Knights win the series 4-2. The second matchup in the Western Conference is between the Colorado Avalanche and the Dallas Stars. Key players for Colorado: Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Gabriel Landeskog, Nazem Kadri, JT Compher, Jonas Donskoy, Valeri Nichushkin, Vladislav Namestnikov, Cale Makar, Sam Girard, Eric Johnson, and Ryan Graves. For Dallas, Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn, Alex Radulov, Joe Pavelski, Roope Hintz, Denis Gurianov, Miro Heiskanen, John Klingberg, and Esa Lindell. X factors in this series: for Colorado, Andrei Burakovsky, and for Dallas, Corey Perry. The goalie matchup in this series: for Colorado, Philip Grubauer, and for Dallas, Anton Khudobin and Ben Bishop. The Dallas Stars and Colorado Avalanche have met 4 times in the playoffs, with the Dallas Stars winning back-to-back Western Conference Finals in 1999 and 2000, and the Avalanche beating the Stars in back-to-back seasons in 2004 and 2006. Colorado is obviously a heavy favorite in this series, but by no means is Dallas a pushover, because they too have a lot of talent on the roster, and they have tons of playoff experience on the roster as well. The one factor that could alter this series is a healthy Ben Bishop, but as of right now, it seems as though he is still unfit to play. The Colorado Avalanche have a high-powered offense led by Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Gabriel Landeskog, and Cale Makar. But in the playoffs, Nazem Kadri is the guy who has really been thriving, scoring 11 points in the playoffs this postseason. One thing that Colorado didn't have to deal with against Arizona is a proven goal scorer in the playoffs like Joe Pavelski. Keeping him in check will be very important. The defense of the Dallas Stars is very mobile and loves to jump into the attack. The forwards of the Avalanche need to be aware, especially when Heiskanen and Klingberg are on the ice. Philip Grubauer wasn't tested a lot in the series against Arizona, but he was good when he needed to be. He will be tested a whole lot more in the next round against Dallas. The Dallas Stars might be the underdog in this series, but by no means are they a pushover, because they have a lot of high character guys in the locker room, and they were able to beat the Calgary Flames without Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, and Alex Radulov putting up any points. The best players in this series against Calgary were Miro Heiskanen and Joe Pavelski, who each had a point a game in this series. Both of these players will need to sustain their level of play if Dallas wants to beat Colorado. However, if the Dallas Stars are forced to start Anton Khudobin, this might be a short series because I can't see him stealing games against Colorado. I expect this series to be more interesting than the Colorado-Arizona series because Dallas is a better team than Arizona. I don't think Dallas can beat Colorado, especially with how bad they are defensively. My prediction is that the Colorado Avalanche win the series 4-1. On my next podcast, I talk about my observations on the second round matchups.